We're going to kick it off with, I guess we'll do Facebook. Zuckerberg was taking heat. The majority of the heat he took was over the acquisition of Instagram, which is seems like a lifetime ago. This was an acquisition that at the time was approved by the FTC. However, these officials said, we don't care if what the FTC said. We're looking at this now. We got fresh eyeballs. We saw what you're doing over here. You got a few more users since that acquisition was approved, and we want to look at it right now. And Zuckerberg, very uncomfortably, in his little webcam setup here, goes on to say, essentially defend himself and say Instagram wouldn't have been Instagram without Facebook. Mm-hmm. His defense is there were many different photo sharing apps at the time, and basically suggesting that whoever Facebook bought at that time could have become the Instagram of today, which of course you and I know, well, there's a little bit of finesse to that answer because Instagram, there was some legs there. Mm-hmm. Instagram had some legs. And then they go in, they uncover some emails where he says Instagram could be a problem for us. He says, this kind of, and this the language, these people, they love that type of language. They go, that sounds anti-competitive. You telling me you didn't want to compete? You just wanted to acquire. And of course, in retrospect, the $1 billion that they spent on Instagram looks like a steal of a deal in 2020 because Instagram, you could argue that's the hot property even more so than Facebook in some ways amongst certain demographics. And they seem to be investing a lot as far as features are concerned on Instagram. They put, this guy right here, Zuckerberg, put a lot of attention on Instagram. Must be worth something. I don't know. Must have been a big deal. So they say you neutralize competitors by acquiring them. That's where we step in. That's anti-competitive. And there's a point to be made there. Now, of course, on the flip side, I got to present the flip side. Yeah, maybe they could have squashed Instagram in other ways. Maybe Facebook photos. Now, I'm just saying, I'm not saying it would have happened, could have used its vast reach and tremendous funding to go out and truly disrupt Instagram and put features that people wanted. It's not impossible. And now that Facebook does have Instagram, so many things have changed about Instagram that only Facebook could do. The advertising model as a whole, Facebook plug-in piece to it, the speed at which they could put teams on new features and so forth. So you have to ask yourself, and this is going to be a common thread as we move between the analysis of each of these complaints against each one of these CEOs, you have to ask yourself two things. Have they done something that is potentially anti-competitive? But then as well, who can compete? And that kind of proves the point of the anti-competitive nature. There's the acquisition piece, which is kind of like a sledgehammer.
It's like a buyout
to competition. But then there's the other piece, which is the intellectual component. The things they are doing are so sophisticated and so outside the spectrum of a traditional business by which these anti-competition laws may work very well. Who's the other Google is what I'm trying to say here. If tomorrow they say, Google, slow down, it's too much of the web. You have too much information. We need to distribute this thing. We need to break you into 15 different companies. Could these 15 different companies even do what Google's doing independently on their own? There's so many plugins and tie-ins and all the rest of it. You bring up DuckDuckGo browser. People get mad. People get mad when you chuckle at the alternatives. But it's fair to chuckle because of market share. Like, I understand that there are people who are enthusiastic about the other alternatives, but you have to understand your niche at that point. Google goes beyond the search engine. Google goes into the smartphone operating system. They go into your email. It never ends. Willie do bringing up every search engine that nobody uses. But of course, in the interrogation, Sundar has to say, "Oh, people, they web search elsewhere. It's a small Google. Are you kidding me? Google's a small time gig. Yeah, we're still we kept the garage from the early days." So, anyways, Zuckerberg gets nailed on the Instagram thing. The emails come out. He gets uncomfortable. Kevin Systrom, the founder of Instagram, hasn't had the nicest things to say about Zuckerberg, and so maybe they keep hammering away at this one particular thing. And you may be asking as a viewer, well, what ends up happening? Well, they're discussing the potential, and I'm not saying this will happen, but they're discussing the potential to break off Instagram as a separate company.
Yeah.
That's what's on the table. Big deals, big time stuff.